So let's react to the England team for England versus Wales and the Scottish and French teams for Scotland versus France. So welcome to this video, supported by Lifting Giants. Let's get into this England team first, and I think the funny thing was when I did the Welsh team yesterday, reacting to that team, I put up a predicted England team with the only change being Ellis Genge coming onto the bench for Beno Obano, and that's exactly what has happened. And the question is that sensible? Is that a smart play? Or is it a bit unambitious, a bit boring? It's a really good discussion point, and we're going to get into it here because actual changes in selection, well, there's not a lot. There was a really interesting quote by George Ford in an interview where he said that England want to be more attacking and make more line breaks. Well, this isn't exactly the team you'd pick to make lots of line breaks, so I hope it happens, but I'm a little bit sceptical about there being lots of line breaks, but hopefully I'm proven wrong. Players like Fraser Dingwall, he needs to make line breaks. He's an inside centre, he's a specialist, he's a smart player, but he needs to show that he can make big line busts, because the guy that England really wanted there was probably Ollie Lawrence. His go-to thing, his strength is line breaks. Fraser Dingwall made some really good passes last week, but Henry Slade's a big passer as well. Do you need both of them? So that centre partnership doesn't scream line breaks, but hopefully they can. I mean, George Ford is good at putting people through holes. He himself isn't really a line breaker, so as a midfield, doesn't scream danger, but I hope they go well. I thought Henry Slade had a really good game last week, so hopefully he can pick up on that. So yeah, the same back three. Tommy Freeman, he was the threat, but Wales will know that he probably is the only big threat. Freddie Stewart hits the line hard, definitely. And also, it's going to be raining, or it's probably going to be raining. So I did say maybe it's time to try a different fullback, just to try different options. George Furbank is a slightly quicker, definitely more attacking fullback. I'm not saying he should be the permanent fullback and Freddie Stewart should be chucked out at all. But if it's raining, I kind of see that. Elliot Daly, did he do much wrong apart from the trip? No. Is he going to make line breaks? I'm not so sure. So I would have liked one extra player in that backline at least that was a line-breaking option. Now, the obvious one to me is Emmanuel Faye-Wabusu. Now, there was chat about him being protected a bit because it hadn't gone well. He'd chosen England over Wales, but this is at Twickenham, remember. So he's still on the bench as before, but I would have loved for him to start at Twickenham. I don't think you can hide him. Anyway, other attacking options they could have brought in. Big Tom Roebuck. Will Muir, the horse, he's an excellent line breaker. Maybe even Oscar Beard on the wing, as he plays sometimes for Harlequins, or Oscar Beard maybe in the centres, I don't know. But there are some other options, but I do admit this squad isn't packed full of line breakers in that back line. They really need players like Ollie Lawrence back, and maybe a few new younger options to come online shortly. Marcus Smith would have helped in that regard as well, but if it's going to be raining, George Ford, Elliot Daly, Freddie Stewart, maybe they are the smart picks anyway, but they have said overtly they want to make more line breaks. So I'm not quite seeing it. I'm hoping I'm wrong, absolutely, and they do make lots of line breaks, but what do you guys think? In the pack, well, it's the same pack. Joe Marler, I thought, had a really good game, and with Ellis Genge coming on, it's an excellent 1-2, their best 1-2 at Loosehead. And Jamie George and Theo Dan, I like it as a 1-2 as well. Would like Theo Dan to have a bit more time. I think he's a really good player, and he could grow into that starting role eventually. But no doubt Jamie George had an excellent skill game. Again, if it's going to be wet, it's going to be raining, hitting those line-outs in the rain, that sort of thing, super important. Itoje had a great game last week. I think on rewatching it, had an even better game than I thought. Chesham, I think just for him, needs to have a game where he doesn't make a big error, as he can do, but him and Itoje are forming that partnership. And that third line-out jumper was Ethan Roots, and the line-out went pretty well for England, particularly disrupting the Italians' ball last week, and line-outs in general are very important. So just a word on the sponsor for the Six Nations videos, Lifting Giants, those specially designed lifting blocks to get better purchase, better lockout, better lifting. Loads of players are using them these days. Nice and soft, reusable lifting blocks. Code RugbyAnalyst10 for a 10% discount during the Six Nations. So the back row goes again of Roots, Underhill and Earl. Underhill was a bit underwhelming maybe, so I think some eyes are on him. Pearson can add some punch. Cunningham South could come into that back row as well. He is only 20, but he's a hell of an athlete. He's a big guy that can move crazy quick, throw his weight around. So I'd love to see Cunningham South get even more minutes. I think he had about 15 last time. Maybe on for Underhill where they move Roots into 7 for a bigger back row. No sign of Bennell shifting to 7. That could be something that could happen with Cunningham South at 8, or Dombrandt's in the squad as well, but maybe we're not going to see much of Dombrandt. I don't know. Looks like Cunningham South is the desired replacement, and it kind of makes more sense because he covers more positions at the moment. So it's a solid pack. If it's wet, it's rainy, it could dominate, it could go well. The Welsh team isn't that experienced. They could get the upper hand there. England's line out, their maulers look pretty good. The Welsh scrum looked pretty good actually in the last game against Scotland, so that's the strength of theirs. Can Will Stewart have another solid scrummaging game? So a good battle in the scrum. On the bench, the same players apart from Ellis Genge. Dan Cole, like I said, not too happy with him as an impact player. Would have much preferred to see Hayes come on, see if he can make an impact. Danny Kerr is a player I'd like to have seen drop out and Ben Spencer be given a go because he's playing so well. Great kicker as well, Ben Spencer in the wet, and he's that much sharper and stronger on the break at the moment. Young Finn Smith, we want to see plenty of time for him, and also please plenty of time for Emmanuel Faye-Wabusu. He's not starting, which is a shame, but hopefully he can get some decent game time in. So let me know what you think of that England team. Borthwick kind of sticking as is. I do see both sides to it, especially if it's wet, but I am a little underwhelmed. Let me know if you think it's sensible or if you think it's unambitious. Then let's talk about the Scotland team. Scotland, they got away with it a bit last week against Wales, completely switching off in that second half and getting overrun. They panicked, they gave away a stream of penalties. They can't do that again. The inclusion of 2 no-nonsense type players for Scotland might help their resilience under pressure. Grant Gilchrist, well, he's got captaincy experience. He's coming in for Richie Gray, who's injured, so that's a good replacement there. Crosby is out, so Jack Dempsey comes into the number 8 slot where he played in the World Cup. He is hard-running, no-nonsense type player. Fagan switches to 6, which is absolutely fine. He plays well there. So it's a bigger, maybe more no-nonsense pack. Gilchrist not one of the decision makers. The captains, the co-captain to Darge and Finn Russell, Tuipulotu a vice-captain. So still not quite sure on their decision makers. We'll see when they come under pressure against France, which they will come under pressure against France. Looking at the team, Carl Rowe, good to see him again at 15. I think he had a really good game actually last week against Wales. Darge is the number 1 open side. I think Townsend wants him there. Fagan and Dempsey, 2 number 8 types. Dempsey, like I said, really physical. So I think it's a good team to take on France. They're just going to have to be a bit more sensible, a bit more resilient, a bit cleverer at not giving away so many penalties. On the bench, we see Andy Christie come in, who's explosive. Not the biggest though, so I don't know if he's quite big enough for international, I don't know. Horn picks up the pace, Healy's pretty reliable. Redpath I thought actually had a decent impact for Scotland, even though they were struggling as a team. So for Scotland, the team looks pretty good. It's just they're up against France, and France were embarrassed really against Ireland, who swatted them aside for a record win. Only a couple of changes for France, but I think they strengthened the team. We've got Woki in now for Willemse, who's obviously banned, and I think that strengthens the team. I would have loved to see him start last week, as I mentioned in my videos. Very athletic, speed and pace he adds to that pack. The backline, while it struggled to put much together that was decent, one good move with a Pinot try. So halfbacks, Luca and Jalabert, they get another crack. They're going to have to be a lot better. We didn't see hardly anything of Dante and Fiku, so they were so quiet last week. Expect to see a lot more of them. And then a nice swap, I think, on the wing. They had put Moefana on the wing, who's more of a power player, but Biel Barry is the silky smooth. He's the talent, the young winger there, so I think that's a bit more position specific. So they were dominated by that ruck speed of Ireland, so they need to make sure they actually get some decent ball and put some attacks on this Scottish team, because we can see if you put them under pressure, maybe they crumble. They can still go for the 6-2 split though, because Ramos, who plays at 15, covers 10 as well, so they don't need a 10 on the bench, so they can just have Legaric, the 9, and Moefana, the outside back, on the bench. I'm sure France are going to have a big backlash. Is it going to be enough to win? I don't know. Scotland at home, they were a little bit chastened by that second half against Wales, so it's a really hard one to call actually. I think you've got to give France the favourites just because of the power they've got, but this could be really, really close. Let me know what you think of those teams. Who's going to win Scotland versus France? Are England going to get it done against Wales? Have they picked the correct team? All the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.